Good.
Okay,
Good
so we're
afternoon.
sorry, go ahead.
Good afternoon, folks. We are broadcasting from Northern California. My name is Alan Jackson with Pursuing Freedom. We have Lauren on the podcast, also Jed Powers, and we are very excited today to bring. I'm not sure where you are today, Texas Slim, but Texas Slim is going to talk with us, tell us a little bit of the history of what he has been working on, and about the eye-opening initiative that is actually bringing freedom back to people's food choices. And we are very excited to have Texas Slim today. Where are you broadcasting from, Texas?
Hey guys, glad to see you again to start off with. Can't wait to get out to California. Good to see some of y'all in Tennessee when we were all in
Absolutely.
Nashville. Rock on. We did it. We all just kind of happened upon Nashville just by coincidence, right? But today I'm out here on Route 66 in Amarillo, Texas. So
Cool.
the old Route 66. And so I pulled over. Behind me is a barbecue joint. So I figured that
Nice.
would be a good backdrop. I don't know what kind of beef they got, but we'll find out. But yeah, I just pulled over the side of the road because we've been trying to do this for a while. But I was in Tennessee, then I was in Georgia, then back in Austin, and then now I'm back up in the Panhandle, about to head back down to Central Texas. So that's about how I roam these days. It's always traveling, always shaking hands, always trying to get on the road, going out the back roads of Texas and the United States. And what this is really about is relationship building at this point in time. And what I did about 3 years ago, a lot of people have heard, I grew up cowboy way, and it's not to be braggadocious. We just were rough and tumble. And what happened, I've broken over 20 bones in my body. I've got 14 pieces of metal in me. I've got a broken neck that was fused. And so I've been around the medical field, right? Well, I had an internal injury about 3 years ago, and I kind of hid the pain. Well, hiding that pain, because I got a high pain tolerance, led me down to some metabolic failure. My kidneys started shutting down. I weigh 178 pounds right now. I went down to 121 pounds, and nobody could figure it out. Well, what had happened, I got busted up so hard, I had a portal vein collapse that shut down my kidneys. They
Wow.
had to drain about 24 liters out of me. And so when they did that, they started doing some exploratory MRIs and all that. But that portal vein collapse, they were able to identify it. They missed it and they missed it and they missed it.
Hmm.
And I started getting very suspect of the health industry because I've been around it on the being able to do mechanically put me back together, but metabolically I started seeing these red flags, and I said, screw that shit, I'm not going to listen to y'all, because I was in an ICU, I was in an emergency room, and the nutritionist at the hospital was spouting a lot of basically, she was educated at the highest level of nutrition in the United States of America by the institutions in the academia. And what she was telling me, I knew was false. And here I am in ICU in a hospital, and everything that she's telling me as a patient that's hanging on to basically his life was all false information. So I said, if I make it through this shit, I'm going to get to the source of the seed of how I got here. And I started dissecting my family's history within the food and agriculture industry in the United States of America. That's when I decided to do something called food intelligence. And so what I started doing is I started reflecting back on my ancestry. I started reflecting back to my grandfather, the farm, the ranch, everything. And what I found, it was fascinating. At the time I started doing food intelligence, okay, but the more I decentralized my research and went to the source of the seed of how I got to where I was, because man, I grew up pretty much a kind of an athlete, cowboy athlete. I've always been pretty stout, muscular, whatever you want to call it, farm tough. And so I knew how I got there because we grew up with a freezer full of beef. And so by saying all of that, I started becoming fascinating in such good shape, not just body or anything like that, but my spirit, my mind, my body did come along, but there was something that was going on, and all I was doing was eating like my grandfather taught me how to eat, and that was having that damn beef in the freezer. And so within that journey, and I really cut a lot of things out there, but within that journey, it led me into saying, I don't give a shit. I'm going to liquidate my life, and I'm going to put my whole rest of all of my efforts into everything that I do from here on out into food intelligence and to establish something that's going to save people's lives. And it led me straight into the beef initiative. You bet. Well, I grew up in small town Texas, in the Texas Panhandle. My grandfather had several sections out there in the middle of nowhere, Panhandle, Texas, place called Lotney, Texas. And I grew up farming and ranching. If not through my grandfather's farm, everybody around Canyon, Texas. The only rodeoing that we really did was with each other. I had some good friends that did the rodeo circuit. They had more of the means. I grew up pretty poor. My mother still lives in a trailer home. My father lives in an apartment, and they worked their whole lives and they got shit on by this fiat system. And so we just grew up pretty kind of dirt poor, and I'm proud of that. Yeah. And so by saying that, we didn't have a lot of market access to a lot of things that a lot of people had. We didn't even have market access to debt. My grandfather didn't believe in it. He would not even think of a credit card or anything like that when it came along. He never used debt within the banking systems, and so that's how we lived. But we were very proud people. But we had a family doctor. She took care of me. I've broken this right arm here. I've broken it 5 times. I've got 4 pieces of metal in it. I've busted my hand up, I don't know, many times. This one's been broken, I don't know, 5 times. I've broken this. I've broken this collarbone twice. I've broken this one once. I've broken probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 ribs. I've broken my neck. I've got a scar this long. I've got part of my hip in my neck. And so I've broken my face. I've had 12 concussions. I used to break horses. I used to play sports. So it was just the way we grew up. And we call it farm tough. It's just like, that's what you do, right? And so, but by saying that, as I grew older, I was always going to go to university. I was going to do everything. Well, the 80s killed our small town. It took away my grandfather's land. And so I was 19 years old, and I said, screw this shit. And so I drove to Austin, Texas with about $175 in my pocket when I left. And whenever I got there, I had about $125 because I bought gas and a 12-pack of beer. But what happened is I went down a journey of meeting different types of people that I'd never been around. And I started learning how to travel out of a backpack, and I started learning technology from a bunch of cyberpunks. And I started going to the University of Texas. I would just go to classes, but I never paid for school. I just go to any class that I wanted to pick out with buddies of mine that I was, forming as I was in Austin. I was kind of a hippie punk cowboy, and I just kind of fell into a really good group of diverse people. And then it was during the time of innovation in technology, I started working for a couple of startup companies. I'd do that for 6 months. Then I'd go to the mountains and cowboy up. I'd go on elk hunts. I'd go on pack trips. We would break horses. I learned how to, I always knew how to rope, but we would always be roping. There's things that I could just do on a 12-month cycle that I just kept on doing throughout my adult life. That led me around the world a couple of times, and it landed me in the telecommunications industry at some point in time, and I became a research analyst. And then I developed a lot of good skill sets within big tech, and I really found out what was going on within technology, with algorithms, with social media, all that kind of good stuff. And by the time 2015 rolled around, I was sick of it, and I just dropped out of big tech. And whenever I started I did consulting is what I did. And then whenever I got busted up again, that's whenever I kind of used my skill sets, and I started really getting down and started doing a deep analysis of our food systems and how basically captured they are. And then I started writing about food intelligence with the harvest of deception. But one thing I did know is I knew the ranching industry in the United States. I knew where we came from, and I know where we are now. I know exactly what's going on in our ranching industry and what they have planned for the great American rancher. And I said, I've got to dedicate my life to this. And so basically that's what I've done.
That's amazing. Is this all part of the great reset effort by the world community, the globalization people to change the way we eat and live?
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. Everybody thinks that they're going to get rid of beef, that they're going to get rid of cows. That's not the plan. The plan is for the Western countries not to consume beef anymore. And at this point in time, a lot of Americans are not consuming American beef. They're consuming beef that comes from either South America, Africa, or Australia. Most of our beef already in the United States is sold overseas. And how they get around that is the labeling laws and the regulatory capture that has gone on within our beef industry in the United States. And so a lot of people think that they're being decadent and they're eating USDA prime from a restaurant. You're probably eating foreign beef that basically was just harvested in the United States. So by saying that, they're going to turn beef into caviar in the United States, sell it to the highest bidder overseas, and then they'll basically build a new fake commodity into our food systems like they did with seed oils and everything else, high fructose corn syrups. All the fake commodities that they've built since 1971 and injected into our food system, that's what they're going to do with fake meat products into the United States and Western countries. And they have a high level of confidence of doing that because of basically our consumer choices as consumers. We are metabolically bankrupt. We do not have a nutritional value within our consumption models anymore, and we've proven that. So they're very confident that they can pull this off just to buy our consumption models alone. And by saying that, they've got at least a decade of research, development, and basically now they're moving forward with what they've discovered that we will consume and what they've basically what I call is a global industrial food shift. And whenever I say that, it starts from the ground up and it's an industrial food shift. And so they'll start injecting new fake commodities into our food systems. We won't even know that we're eating fake meat products, fake protein products, be either cricket dust, synthetic beef, anything, and they'll be able to circumvent around the regulations because they control the regulatory capture that in which they orchestrated up to this point in time. This is happening, and a lot of people don't understand it. They don't know how to identify it, and they don't know where to start with their food intelligence. And a lot of people start midstream instead of getting to the source of the seed of where we came from and the source of the seed of the corruption that is in our food supply systems.
You know, that's interesting. I would have guessed the opposite, in that I would have guessed that the meat bringing in from overseas is healthier, that may not have all the growth hormones injected into that beef. So that's very enlightening to tell that.
Well,
And
what it
maybe,
is, well, you're right. When it starts out, it's great beef. Beef that comes from Brazil is fantastic. Beef that comes from Argentina is fantastic. Beef that comes from Australia is fantastic. When it gets to the United States, right before it goes across that border, well, what do you know? Let's do some things to that beef, and let's just say that it's USDA choice, prime, premium. But before that, we're going to do some stuff to it, and then we're going to harvest it in the United States, and we can call it anything you want. We really don't have to tell you what has taken place because that beef has come from overseas or from a foreign country. We got to make sure that beef is safe for you, the consumer. And so once again,
yeah. And so is the finishing process. They bring this beef in as good stuff. In the process of finishing it, they finish us up, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So when you say, sorry, when you say finish, you're talking they send them to feedlots and then just finish fattening them up the last couple 100 pounds with corn, or is what's the
Yeah, well, you can call it corn, you can call it feed, you can call it cold feed, hot feed, call it sweet feed. They got many different names. But and this is where everybody is confused, and I can understand why people are confused because a lot of times let's say the commodity cowboy gets a bad rap. Man, this has nothing to do with what the ranchers are doing, with what the animal producers are doing. It has everything to do with the big four global processing multinational corporations that control the distribution and the processing of our animal protein in the United States of America. The amount of corruption behind these big global conglomerates is fascinating, and most people don't ever even get to see the light of day of what they've done in the past, because they usually settle out of court. Nobody sees it. It's not on the front page of their TikTok or their damn CNN, so they don't even know it's happening.
What is the hit us with those four if you don't mind?
It's JBS, National, Tyson, and Cargill. The worst of the bunch is JBS out of Brazil. JBS was formed in a Manhattan apartment complex.
Wow.
The owner was imprisoned in Brazil for over 2 years for bribing the Brazilian president. They've been fined close to $1 billion in, I don't know, 5 to 8 years. They settled out of court this last year during COVID price manipulation for $56 million, but nobody found out that they actually made $500 million in profit with that price manipulation during COVID. They made tons of money as people sat home and consumed shitty beef from foreign countries that was basically turned into fat cows and harvested in the United States and sold in our supermarkets. Simple as that.
Yeah.
When you have the beef initiative now, I'm assuming that a lot of people are really enlightened about things. What do you guys do during a beef initiative, like in Texas or Colorado?
Sure. Well, the biggest thing lately, a lot of people don't understand, because we're going the regenerative route, right? But we're not excluding anybody within the beef initiative. If you're an animal producer, we want you in part of the beef initiative, because there's a lot of commodity cowboys. And once again, that's not nefarious. I'm just saying, hey, they have to be commodity because they're trying to survive, but they want out of it. They want away from the JBS, the Cargills, and everything. They want to decentralize their processing so they can take that cow all the way to harvesting and then beyond. Right now, they just have to get rid of it so they can survive. And then the factory farms, the feedlots take those cows, and then they do what they will with it. So when we have these conferences and these summits, what we do is we educate, for one. We basically get back to the source of the seed of where we came from. We talk about food intelligence on a level that nobody's really ever heard of. But then we let the farmer and the rancher start educating us, the consumers. Why are they here? What do they do? And how did they do it? And once people start really understanding what a true modern day rancher, animal producer is, then we start having conversations and everybody becomes family, and we make those relationships. We develop those relationships. Every one of the conferences that I've had, from Kerrville, Texas, to Colorado out there at Jason Rick's ranch, Rick Ranches, to Georgia out there at White Oak Pastures with Will Harris, every one of them is about relationship building, and it's creating market access to a new lifestyle that people are yearning for. And we're talking about homeschooling. We're talking about the heritage woman. We're talking about functional medicine, different types of medicine out there, or healthcare, or a healthy way of living than basically is being presented to us right now. So we create the conversation, we hang out for about 2 or 3 days, and we basically strategize, and we build some tactics, and we say, hey, we're going to create a whole new international lifestyle, and everybody's going to come along. And basically that's what we're about to do across the world, and it's happening.
I'm gonna just try to shoot back and let me know where I'm off here, but it sounds like the beef initiative is many things, and it's your response and others who are all joining this initiative at the crap you just described, from government overreach, from these giant, mainly 4 companies that are really ruining the food industry overall, but definitely beef. So the initiative is building communities, building relationships via all sorts of different means. It sounds like doing summits, getting together, going out and shaking ranchers' hands, and eliminating that middleman and that giant conglomeration and corporation, and actually making these relationships straight with ranchers and end users so we can just bypass all that. So fill me in on where I'm wrong, and let me know if I'm on the right track as far as defining the beef initiative.
Yeah, I want everybody to know the beef initiative is now the new authority when it comes to basically giving a rancher a voice in this nation. We're
Nice.
tired of the bullshit. We're tired of them being squashed out, tired of them being, basically captured by the big chemical and grain companies. It's time for everybody to say no more to the deceptions and to quit validating the deceptions. And the Beef Initiative can be a platform in many different ways for many different people. But one thing it is about, it's basically getting back to the source of the seed of nutrition for our children and our families. And however we need to do that, we're going to circumvent around all this bullshit. We're not going to allow it anymore in our lives, in our families, or at our table. And so what we have to do together collectively, we have to build that community. It has to be grassroots and it has to be grass fed, because that's what all cows start on, grass fed cattle. That's 100% true. You can't have a cow that does not start on grass. And so as we establish that platform for people to basically kind of take away from what they can from the Beef Initiative spiders out. It creates nodes. And each place that I've had this event, like in Georgia to Colorado to Texas, everybody takes away something a little bit different, but it's all the same. And so by saying that we are now the authority, that we're not going to validate your deceptions, because we don't have to. We don't have to ask permission to eat good food. And if you think we have to, you think we have to bow down to you or bend a knee, that's just not how it's going to work with us. We're decentralized with our communications. We're not going to put up with this bullshit anymore. And we do not have to have permission to eat food that basically makes us stronger, makes our lives better. It protects our spirit. It protects our energy levels. It protects our mental capacity. And so whoever comes after us, get ready, because guess what? We've got the solutions.
Beautiful. I love it, man. So people can buy beef directly from the Beef Initiative. I'll say that. And then also, I've heard you talk about examples of ranchers. So if you could think of a couple of, I listened to you talking with somebody last week, and I forgot you'd mentioned a couple of different examples. But if any ranchers that are part of this initiative come to mind, can you just give us maybe a brief synopsis of their experience with the Beef Initiative?
You bet. I mean, one thing I can pretty confidently say, I haven't talked to the Beef Initiative platform is open source, right? That means that any producer, rancher can come in, put their information into our platform underneath the producer section. Everyone that I've ever talked to in person or through the phone or through a digital means has grown their ranch. They've increased their herd size. They are being found. And mostly at first by the Bitcoin community. That's who did it. But now it's just people coming to the Beef Initiative. They're finding locally sourced beef through the Beef Initiative. Okay, by saying that, I've got some very key ranchers that joined in the beginning. That was Justin Trammell in the Texas Panhandle. He basically has his own processing center and his own basically herd that he stewards. And he does fowl, he does beef, he does hog, and he does, of course, beef, but he does lamb. But so he's a smaller scale. He only wants to feed like 60-mile radius. Well, he's full at capacity. He has no more worries about selling his herds. Okay. Now I went out and I met Cole Bolton of K&C Cattle down there in Central Texas. Me and Cole have become pretty damn good friends, and that's probably what you saw. Well, he just opened up his processing center down there in Luling, Texas. And that's basically hometown meats. Well, he's the number one supplier of the Beef Initiative. And at this point in time, now that we have vertical integration all the way through the processing center, we're about to be ready to feed the nation, and we can go up against anybody right now. If you want beef in your house, you can order through the Beef Initiative, and you know exactly where it's coming from. It's coming from K&C Cattle and Beef Initiative. We are partners, and he will be the number one supplier. But then we have Jason Rick of Rick Ranches of Colorado. He is also part of the Beef Initiative. He makes decisions. He gets to influence the Beef Initiative, and he gets the first scholarship in his name this year that the Beef Initiative established, that I established with One Full Bitcoin. He gets to have a scholarship in his name, and now in 2023, we're going to have a scholarship foundation that helps Jason be the educator that he is, and the rancher in Colorado the way that he needs it to be. So there's a lot of great success stories within less than a year that have taken place. Each one of these ranchers, they're not struggling, they're thriving. And a lot of people, a lot of ranchers are starting to see this happening and unfold. With Cole Bolton, we're going to have something called the Cattleman's Kill It and Grill It down there in Luling, and it's November 5th. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to have a big ass cattleman's feast. We're going to have a ranch tour, and we're going to have a processing plant tour. And then we're going to have a big old cattleman's feast that we're designing as the ranchers. This is how you eat a damn cow. These are all the damn
Beautiful.
cuts. We're going to get Brazilian. We're going to get Argentinian. We're going to get gaucho and cowboy with this. And so we're going to start unleashing all kinds of education from nose to tail about the cow, and the ranchers get to orchestrate that, and we get to be their digital voice, but we also get to be their voice across the world and show how we're doing this. And so it's a big collective that's happening right now, and it's being very holistic. This is not a marketing plan. We don't have a big business model like somebody like a Butcher Box or somebody like that. We have no venture capital money. This has all been done by me, and that's it. And I'm not a rich man. This is just grassroots, hard-ass work, and now it's materializing into something that we can take across the United States and the world.
So primarily then, probably one of the best hubs that people have to connect at this time would be a website. Like if they wanted to go order beef or make connections, or if a rancher wanted to put their information in or interested, is a website probably the best plan of attack there? We can order beef from the website, correct?
You go to beefinitiative.com, and right there
okay.
Yeah, right when you go there, we have a subscription model now, and I'm really happy to announce that we've got a new rancher coming in from West Texas, and it's Holy Cow Beef, and they're selling subscription models along with Cole, and basically they're going to be a big part of the Beef Initiative as well. They just got introduced. So
that's great. So like for us, I'm sure that we being up in Northern California probably wouldn't be able to like order a box of beef. Am I wrong?
No, we can ship to 48 states across the United States right now.
Okay, so what if we have like a local rancher, because we've been out shaking ranchers' hands and Buffalo ranchers' hands. What if they would like to join the Beef Initiative? What's the process then?
The best thing for the protocol that we've developed that we see that works best for the rancher is to go ahead and get their information into the Beef Initiative platform.
Oh, okay.
Once they get in there and they kind of get found and they kind of work through a few kinks or whatever, they can schedule basically an appointment with me, and we can look and we can develop a roadmap if they want to sell through the Beef Initiative.
Okay.
And we're just now finalizing the talks, and actually, if you look at my Substack, it's texasslim.substack.com. Those are the two biggest platforms you need to go to, is the beefinitiative.com, texasslim.substack.com. We just wrote a 3-part series about Peter Allen up in Wisconsin called Mastodon Farms. Fascinating story. Well, he's going to start selling beef to the Beef Initiative as well, and he's ready to go. Okay. So there's a protocol that takes place, and if you're ready, if you have the capacity to be able to sell, across your region, if you only want to sell it in Northern California, that's all you have to sell.
Oh, okay,
we're not going to change your business model. We're not going to put stuff on you that you're not able to do.
Yeah.
We want to follow your dream and your business model and help you with it, and help multiply the effect of that.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Yeah, that sounds good, because I know that I don't speak directly for these guys, but we have spoken in the past, and we're kind of interested in like half a beef or a quarter beef, but maybe the Beef Initiative could be a good means to actually connect that local rancher with one of us, and then it would also be a source where we could actually refer somebody who's in our position who wants to buy half a beef and bypass all the crap and who knows what they're getting at the store, to actually connect with that producer right out of the gate. Am I right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's what we want to do. We want to word of mouth this. Let's get word of mouth going. Let's get the buzz. let's act like a hive,
For sure.
and then everybody it's amazing how it all comes together with each rancher that I've worked with personally. It just works out because
Yeah,
people do want to know more about them. They want to support them. They want to be educated.
for sure.
They want to know more about where we come from as our food industry in the United States. There's so much to be learned once you go down that rabbit hole of going down, what is food intelligence within beef.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, personally, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of what is going on governmentally, especially in, our state, like California. And
Right.
I would love, I mean, I'm motivated in all sorts of ways to circumnavigate the current system. That what they're pumping into it. I'm a huge grass-fed beef guy. Regardless of your opinion on what could potentially become of supply chains, food supply chains, which there's probably a good reason to actually establish local food for your family and whatnot, just in that regard. I mean, to me, there's so many reasons to actually jump on board with this beef initiative. Know where your food comes from, know that it is the best stuff for you personally. You can procure these things, and you won't stress out about economic downturns, about government bureaucratic BS, about all this stuff. So I mean, for me, plus I want the best food available for me and my family. So
Yeah.
personally, I'm super motivated for this, and this is super exciting to me because I've already talked to a bunch of different ranchers, and I'm excited for us and them, because I think they've been getting screwed for years in this country and North America in general. Because I grew up in Canada, and it seems like I used to be familiar a little bit with the industry and was kind of married into it, and doesn't seem like cattle prices have changed much from for the last 30 years plus. So it's
No.
everything else is inflating, and yet they're still trying to scrape by, and on the same prices they're selling their product for that they were in the late 80s. So
Yeah.
I'm all excited about this because I mean, I really don't even care if they charge me more, because I know what I'm getting, I know where it's coming from, and I know who's raising my food. So I'm super stoked personally.
I have a question
Well,
on
go
the
ahead.
practical side for those farmers who have been for years and years and years been selling at the local stockyard. They're not finishing their cattle off. Somebody else buys their cattle and then finishes them off. Is there a difficult transition for these people to then find a local producer that will finish them off? Or do you find guys need to change their technique, their whole way of operations?
Well, the one thing that a lot of people, and this is something that I've been, and it's hard for people to grasp, but the biggest bottleneck to solutions, biggest bottleneck to our nutrition is the processing center, the
Mm,
multinational processing centers, and for the rancher as well. They do what they do because they have to do it, or they don't do
Right.
anything. And so, if we can get people to understand what market access means in this nation, and that we want food that has a direct market access that the producer, the rancher, has control of, not the multinational corporations, then we make change. Cobalt and me being the beef initiative, and the people that we're contacting or contacting us right now, there are producers saying, hey, we want to come through your processing center now. We want kill dates. We want to harvest through your processing center. It's fascinating how fast that happens, and it's like a domino effect. And once we get more of these processing centers opened in Texas, because that's our plan, is through the Beef Initiative Association Council, we'll be breaking down on another processing center in the spring, I hope, of 2023. So once people see the vertical integration from the soil to the grass to the producer to the processing center to market access to your fork that is controlled by the rancher, not the multinational corporation, people will come flooding in. They'll change your protocols as far as their inputs to that cattle. They'll change everything they do. It's not going to happen all at once. It took us a long time to get here, but it basically, they see it and they want to be a part of it. And by saying that, I was invited to the U.S. Cattlemen's Association National Convention in Nashville, December 10th. So I've got put together a panel of Jason, Cole, me, Marty Bent, and Matt Odell. And we're going to be talking to every producer that comes to Nashville December 10th.
We kind of are thinking and excited about maybe trying to focus in on that mid-January visit out here and trying to rally some support both with potential end users who are like us and really trying to seek out this source of incredible food, also with ranchers. So, and the responses we've been getting so far are pretty exciting. We've, like I mentioned earlier, spoken with several ranchers and they definitely seemed interested. So I think, if we could get things going around here and maybe look forward to, you coming out our way in mid-January sometime, and we can talk more offline about that as far as ironing out all the details. But
sure,
I think maybe building these relationships is what it's all about, and scaling back to a earlier, simpler time when a handshake meant everything, and looking your rancher in the eye, giving him the firm handshake. I mean, I love that, and that's the kind of beef I want to eat, and that's the kind of world I want to live in. So I'm pretty stoked for where this is going.
Yeah, none of this was my intention. Like I said, I didn't know where this was going.
Yeah.
I had faith. I had faith that I was doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to tell the ranchers. I like to tell the consumers, the people that come along, that become part of the beef initiative. We're trying to figure all this out. What we do know is what we're doing is the right thing for us individuals and us for the ranchers. And so, the ranchers, a lot of times they'll say, what do you want from me? How much does this cost? And I want the ranchers that haven't come on, that are maybe listening to this for the first time. We don't want anything except to support you. We want to create a consumer demand to you, the rancher. You deserve it, and we want to give you a voice that you've never had.
Hell yeah.
40% of our ranchers have been basically, the land is gone, and I guarantee you, people are going to wake up in the United States of America, and they will not be able to eat American beef if they don't wake the hell up.
Yep.
This is coming. We've gone a long ways where people are able to ignore it. It's not there anymore. This is happening, and people better step up.
Right.
And that's why we do these micro summits. And what I hope to happen is that I'm going to have a lot of micro summits next year in 2023. I would love that we kick off the end of or the beginning of 2023 in California, because I'm headed to Australia at the end of January. And what a better way than to kick it off in California, head to Australia. I'll be going to Thailand. I'll be going showing across the world that this is not a Texas thing. It's not a United States thing. This is a global thing that everybody needs to get behind of, and we need to decentralize our food supply systems in a way that we can do it. We don't have to ask for permission, and we can do it on each continent, and we can make this happen. And by saying that, if everybody will quit trying to say, well, we got to feed the world. That's what they started in the early 70s, and that was the propaganda that they pushed on the American public. Well, guess what? We never fed the world, and if we did, we quit feeding our communities nutritional food.
Yeah.
Because we're metabolically bankrupt. And so you can say that we got to feed the world all the damn time, but I'm tired of these children not having lives anymore because they're metabolically screwed at age 11 with diabetes.
Yep.
It's that simple.
Do you run into any challenges with the whole politics and the laws? I mean, I know sometimes laws can hobble the local producer from selling. I mean, maybe we need to also incorporate some change to the laws. Is that a part of the process?
Well, it's been fascinating. Whenever I mentioned Justin Trammell earlier, he's got a great relationship with the Farm and Ranch Freedom Alliance here in Texas. We've got the law on our side. We've got the activists that know the law. We've got some legislation that's on our side. We don't really play the politics, but we leverage within the law, and we try to understand the law better than the law knows itself. And we found that out in processing, that a lot of times the regulatory capture or the ignorance around the inspections of processing centers is because they don't know how to how to inspect a microprocessing center. So we're discovering a lot of things, and we're not just hitting this from, me yelling from a freaking mountaintop. We are establishing those relationships with those people that do know the law, so we can come to the table at any time that we have to and say, actually, no, we got precedents here. You're wrong. And so that's what we need to do in each state. We can get you there from the state of Texas. Our basically our beef laws, as far as the processing centers and the distribution and the market access, and we can get you most of the way there in each state across the United States. But we're going to rely on people like in California. You have different laws, right? We're going to figure those laws out, and then we're going to sit at tables and saying, well, you're wrong. We can do this. We're not going to ask you for permission, and we have precedents.
Yeah, for sure. I think it goes back down to what you were saying, where the people that are interested in buying this product straight from the producer, we're going to learn from them, and we want to, because we've even been out when we were at the Buffalo joint, even the guy was telling us, legally, this is treated in California like wild game. So I can sell it as a quarter or half or whatever. So, I mean, we'll slowly learn more and more about this too. And if the Beef Initiative is able to connect these two, the producer and the consumer, they can iron out the details. I mean, maybe they can be just like, shoot, I'll sell you half a beef and you can go get it cut down here at Boyd's Butcher Shop, and boom, you're set, So I mean,
100%.
I love all these aspects about just creating this whole community where it's just connecting people together and bypassing all the bullshit. I love it.
It really is. It's a form of food intelligence that we don't have, but it was stolen away from our families and our communities. And it's not like we're reinventing the wheel, but in a lot of ways, what we're doing is we're becoming a modern day cattleman. Yeah. This is what it means to be a modern day cattleman, is understanding from the ground up how we steward and how we process and how we deliver that cow and how we take care of it, honor, respect it. And that's the fascinating thing about this, because everybody's hungry for that information, hungry for that education. And that's the fun. That's why I call it an international lifestyle that people don't understand yet.
For sure.
Absolutely. So as we go forward, Slim, what would be your best piece of advice you could give us? You've done this many times. You've done numerous Beef Initiative conferences. What is your best piece of advice you can give us as we go out and seek people, farmers, ranchers, to come attend this? What's the best piece of advice you've got?
Well, my first handshake was with Justin Trammell, and I didn't bring up damn Bitcoin. And with Justin Trammell, I haven't brought up Bitcoin yet. I didn't need to. He's not ready. I know that. How do I know that? Because I built a relationship with the man. I found out why he does what he does. I wasn't trying to sell him something. I was trying to build a relationship and a friendship with him. And if we can all, as grown men and women right now in the United States, understand that the most important thing we can do in our lives right now is to establish strong relationships built on a sense of integrity that the world has lost. If we can bring integrity to that relationship building, everything else falls in place. Quit worrying about solving all the damn world problems. Worry about building a strong relationship that's built on integrity that our grandparents knew and they tried to teach us, but a lot of things got in the way of that. And I think modern day society has proven that. So if you can, it's hard to trust these days, but if you can bring some damn courage to trusting somebody, then you're going to be all right. You're going to establish some strong ass relationships because you're obligated and now you're accountable for that relationship. And whenever you do that, you look in the mirror maybe a little bit different than we have in the past, or at least, the last decade or whatever the hell's been going on. But, that's the best thing that I've learned from this, is really put your passion into the relationship building. We're not selling anything here, man. What we're trying to do is save a damn legacy and some heritage.
Yeah.
That's it.
I love it,
man. So approach these people with a little bit of understanding, care, and empathy of what they're going through.
Hell yeah. And listen. And listen for their pain points. Because guess what? You're going to have a solution they don't see yet, but it's going to take some conversations to get to that, where you do have that clear communication that they can understand. And same goes for us. We don't know what goes into food. or how it's
Yeah.
been done for thousands of years. They do.
Right.
Let's get back to the source of the seed of that intelligence. We have just as much to learn as we have to teach. And it's
Yeah.
a perfect balance. It really is.
Yeah.
And, old Matt Odell saw that. He goes, I can't believe the balance that it happens whenever these conversations start happening. And he's right. He spotted that.
Yeah. I love it.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm
So it
pretty
sounds like we need
excited.
to shut our mouths more and open our ears more
Mhm.
in these kinds of events where we're talking to ranchers then. Hey, on a
Yeah.
side note though, ranchers raise beef and farmers raise produce and veggies and stuff. Right?
Man, it's across the board.
Oh, okay.
I got,
Yeah.
you got what you got here. There's a little education. Even I from Texas ranching had to learn.
Yeah.
Okay, you got animal producers, you got grass farmers, you got farmers that raise animals, you got ranchers. And so they all kind of fall under. You just kind of have to find out who they are. Like
I
Peter
got you.
Allen up in Wisconsin,
Yeah.
he's an animal farmer. He's a
Oh.
farmer. And then Justin here in the Texas Panhandle, he's a grass farmer. And then you got Cole down in Central Texas. Well, he's a damn rancher. But they're all cattlemen. They're all cattlemen. And so if you can call a man a cattleman, I
Then
think
we
that
can't
shows a lot
miss.
of respect.
Yeah, because we were throwing. I noticed we've all used the word farmer when we're talking about a cattleman, and I was thinking,
Right.
is that really right? I mean, some ranchers might take offense to it if they don't want it. I was like, do I grow veggies, man? No. Yeah.
Yeah, when you build a relationship with them, you know what to call them.
Okay. Yeah.
And you'll figure that out pretty quick because they're all different. They're all so diverse. You know, like Jason Rick in Colorado is different than Cole Bolton in Texas. But guess what? They're so diverse, but they're the same damn guy.
Yeah.
And that's what we got to find out whenever you develop these relationships. Same with Will Harris in Georgia. He's totally different than Cole Bolton in Texas. And so once you build these relationships with these certain types of farmers, producers, ranchers, you figure out, kind of where you stand with them in dialogue and in, their purpose and what they're up against.
Yeah, we've already learned a lot. One of the folks we visited, one of the cattlemen we visited was he was telling us, oh yeah, I sell them at this point, and then they go to this feedlot down, I don't know, south, maybe somewhere, I think it was Southern California or Central California somewhere. They fatten them up another 200-300 pounds, and then they just go off to the slaughterhouse. And he's like, these ones are eating such and such, and you could get a tough one. And like we were like already getting an incredible education. And I already mentioned the buffalo rancher or whatever, the guy who raised buffalo. So I mean it's already becoming quite a learning curve for me, because not all beef is created equal. So it's quite something from this perspective too, from a consumer level.
It really is. I actually had a conversation with Brooke Miller, the president of the Cattlemen's Association, yesterday. And we were just talking about, fat in that, getting a fat cow up to 200, 300 extra pounds. The general public, they eat that fat and it's gross.
Yeah.
Well, if I eat the fat off of regenerative, through the beef initiative, I want to eat that fat.
Yeah.
And it's a totally different form of fat. So much you learn about just the nutrition of the fat or, the leanness of it. It's unlimited. It's a rabbit hole just as big as anything else. So it's so true.
Been,
and go ahead.
I'll say it's been great having you on. I think a lot of people in America know there's problems with the food, but they have no idea of a solution. They don't know the extent of it. And what is happening now through the Beef Initiative and the food intelligence is I think it's going to help a lot of people out different ways. And most of us don't even know how bad a shape we're in.
For sure. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that there is a lot more nutrients and nutrition and vitamins and everything good for you in one little steak than there is in a whole wagon full of the other veggies and other shit that are shoved down their throats, But I mean, that's the fact.
Yeah, we've got reports. I mean, they did a study on apples, and you have to eat 5 apples from a grocery store, a GMO apple, 5 just to match 1 apple 10 years ago. So,
Wow.
we've got the proof. I don't even argue the bullshit deceptions anymore. You
Mhm.
go off and eat your damn pizza pockets and chicken tendies if you got to. I'm going to eat beef, and I can
Mhm.
stand tall. I'm proof of work. Once again, I started from zero. I mean, I was pretty close to death, and here I am, and I'm probably in the best shape of my life, and I was always in good shape. And all of this is not a judgment towards people.
For
We're
sure.
all part of this. We've all been affected by it. This is not a health judgment. It's not a physical judgment. It's nothing. It's saying, hey, this is based on some really good observation, and this is a pathway that you can find a new lifestyle, and you don't have to pay attention to the bullshit that got you there.
Yeah, I love that, man. Because it's like, hey, try it out, man. Like, eat this
Yeah.
way for a while and see how you feel. See how your mind works. See how, if you're still depressed. Like, I really feel, I mean, I have a degree in psychology. I remember studying back in the day where diet and exercise do more for you than almost any psychosomatic drug that they have on the market. More for any depressant, antidepressant, anything like that. Diet and exercise. And start with diet, So I
Yep.
mean, just don't take somebody's word for it. Just try it. Experiment for yourself. Use your own brain. And I think that's where and like you said, we're not trying to create a cult here. We're just
No.
trying to say, hey guys, here's an option. Check it out. We think it'll help you feel better and become a better person. Give it a whirl. If it doesn't work for you, then you can cast it aside. But not only are you providing this good food for your family and making yourself feel better, think better, and everything else, but you're going to actually have that in case something does go wrong with our food system, which we already talked about that it is drastically, or if there is supply chain issues, or if you are limited on food, or I mean, there's just a plethora of reasons to get involved in something like this. So like you said, it's an opportunity, and it's not something we're trying to get crazy cultish about or tinfoil hatty about. So I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate everything that you're doing, because I know you've been spending hundreds and hundreds of miles, thousands of miles driving around and just educating people about beef and about this whole beef initiative. And we appreciate it, and we're going to take full advantage. I know we're all talking about filling our freezers and whatnot with beef, so we definitely appreciate all your efforts, Slim.
For sure.
Man, I appreciate you guys. You guys are diligent. You definitely stay on me and persistent. I ask everybody to do that because I'm busy. No, I need that because I do. I'm up to about 25,000 miles since June right now, and
Jeez.
it's a hard ass roll. But I said I was going to do this, so I'm going to do it. And
Yeah.
you can call it cliche, but I don't give a shit. It's time to cowboy up. It's time to get some grit in all of us and
Yes.
do some proof of work and
Hell yeah.
quit validating the damn deceptions, man. And let's help each other build, these relationships. Let's change our families' lives. I want to send off 100 Christmas cards to 100 ranchers. That's what I want to do, and I want them to all be lifelong friends. That's how we save this nation. That's how we save our food supplies. It's basically going back to the source of the seed of what got us here. It's as simple as that.
Fucking go.
Yes, let's fucking go. I'm ready.
All right. We look forward to seeing you in January. Thanks for coming.
Let's do it. Let's coordinate. Let's get this shit going. Let's make California a model for the micro beef initiative summits.
Love
that
it.
everybody's going to
Sounds
be
like a
doing
plan.
next year.